they're candidates. What you do is when you're going to steal the work, where these studios do their rules is, or their play, is they'll get a different candidates, high level, low, A players, D players, A players that might be plausible. Tom Hanks doesn't really write scripts, but the audiences might believe that, oh, we got the writing bug. When he watched famous Jewish playwright for Broadway, Heidi Chronicles, but not a film writer. So you're bringing in people that haven't really done screenplays, but the audience might think it's plausible. They suddenly come up with it. But they're doing candidates. You bring in a bunch of candidates, then you basically have them compete with each other to see who will be the best candidate to be given the stolen work. There's an article called The Lost Wachowski Interview. And it was called that after they wrote it and didn't air it because it wasn't supposed to be aired until this author was destroyed. And so in the early airing of it, or early writing of it, they discovered that Wachowskis were saying, we hope we can be given the science project when they're asked what we'll do next. And that means they're trying to push it. They're trying to push their candidacy forward and say on an interview, which they quickly blocked and called the Lost Interview until later. Mm-hmm. You see what's going on. They actually were trying to push it a little bit by saying publicly, we want to be given the science project. There was not a name attached. There's like 346 subtitles on Immortals. That gives you different names to pick from. And so no, they had not been chosen yet, so they weren't allowed to choose a title yet. So it stays the Immortals or codename Science Project until someone's selected. And that's exactly what was going on. They tried to push the envelope.
So is this something you saw prior to this happening to you? Or you discovered all this once they took your project and made it a $2 billion franchise?
I didn't learn about it until I was actually approached. They must have thought I was pretty thick on this because they actually planted somebody in my life to take place of my friends and such as that to be my partner. And then she's the one at the statute of limitations. You have 10 years from 1999 to 2009. So I wasn't biting it. I wasn't catching on. It was stolen. And so then what they did was they had her show me images from the actual film, Little Girl at the Train Station, Little Girl Pointing at the Sun, which is right from my pages, and saying, honey, it looks like your work's taken at the very deadline for claiming in 10 years statute.
And so what did you do when you found that out?
I did a webpage. I did a webpage that said, this is incredible, but that's exactly what they wanted. See, they want you to sue them so they can supply their own attorneys to come in and say, hey, we'll handle this for you. They run the clock out. They go on vacation.
How do they handle it? How do they handle it for you? How they handle it for you?
So they did. That's exactly what they did. They had the honeypot right there, who was actually corresponding with Mike Lang at Disney. Disney was one of the main culprits in this whole theft. And so she wasn't even really acting as my wife. She was brought in to handle, if you will. Solicited me, came to the same improv groups I was doing on Maui, suddenly asking if I wanted to be with her. And next thing I know, I've got a plant right there. She doesn't even identify with my son. Doesn't even want to. It's just basically a byproduct of the job. And then Mike Lang invites her back at the end. The point is they have access to evidence. They can steer the ship. They can make you dance. And it turns out her landlord on Maui was the attorney they sent me to, who was classmates of Warner Brothers attorneys from University of Berkeley. So it was all orchestrated like the art of war. And they made sure that they had access to evidence, could destroy altered evidence. They made sure that that the statutes ran, and then they'll say, oh, he lost his case. And that's how they do it.